Welcome to a powerful tribute to one of the most fearless freedom fighters in human history. Before she became a legendary conductor on the Underground Railroad, did you know that Harriet Tubman suffered a catastrophic brain injury as a teenager that left her with permanent narcolepsy? For the rest of her life, she would suddenly fall into deep, trance-like sleeps, during which she experienced vivid, prophetic dreams that she believed were direct communications from God. This tiny woman, completely illiterate and disabled, turned these visions into a tactical roadmap for freedom, outsmarting armed bounty hunters and army generals alike. Make sure to watch until the very end of the video as we unveil how one woman changed the course of African American history. Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Minty Ross around 1822 on a plantation in Dorchester County, Maryland. Born into chattel slavery, her earliest memories were not of childhood play, but of hard labor, hunger, and the constant terror of her family being torn apart by the slave trade. At just 5 years old, she was rented out to neighboring households, forced to check muskrat traps in icy rivers, and suffer brutal lashings if she showed any signs of fatigue. The defining moment of her youth came when she was a teenager. While at a dry goods store, she crossed paths with an enslaved man who had left his field without permission. When his overseer demanded that Minty help restrain the man, she refused and stepped in front of the escaping worker. The furious overseer threw a heavy 2-pound iron weight at the escapee, but it missed and struck her squarely in the head, crushing her skull. She hovered between life and death for months without medical care. The injury left her with a lifetime of severe headaches, seizures, and narcoleptic trances. In 1844, she married a free black man named John Tubman and changed her first name to Harriet in honor of her mother. By 1849, the threat of being sold into the brutal cotton fields of the Deep South became an immediate reality for Harriet. Realizing she had nothing left to lose, she made a fateful decision. Leaving her husband behind, who refused to take the risk with her, she escaped into the night, using the stars and the moss on the north side of trees to navigate the perilous terrain toward Pennsylvania. When she finally crossed the state line into freedom, she was struck by the sheer magnitude of the moment. She later recalled, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glow over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven." But the joy of her own liberty was quickly overshadowed by a heavy realization. She was free, but her parents, her siblings, and her people were still trapped in the living hell of bondage and slavery. She vowed to return. Over the next decade, Harriet Tubman earned the biblical nickname Moses for her extraordinary missions. The Underground Railroad was not a literal train, but a highly secretive, illegal network of safe houses, hidden trails, and abolitionist allies. Tubman became its most successful conductor, returning to the hyper-dangerous territory of Maryland roughly 13 times to personally rescue around 70 people, including her aging parents and siblings. Her operational security was legendary. She always traveled in the dead of winter, when the long nights provided maximum cover, and she heavily utilized code songs like "Go Down, Moses" or "Steal Away" to signal her presence to escaping groups. Tubman was incredibly strict. She carried a revolver not only to ward off slave catchers, but to ensure total discipline among her passengers. If a fugitive grew too terrified and threatened to turn back, endangering the entire group, she would point the pistol at them and give a chilling ultimatum: you go on or die. Every single person went on. By the height of her operations, Southern slaveholders grew so desperate to stop her that they placed a combined bounty on her head worth thousands of dollars. Yet she proudly boasted until her dying day, "I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." When the American Civil War broke out in 1861, Tubman saw the conflict as the ultimate opportunity to eradicate slavery forever. She traveled to South Carolina to support Union forces, working initially as a nurse and a cook. However, the Union commanders quickly recognized her unmatched skills in guerrilla warfare, stealth navigation, and intelligence gathering. She was recruited to head a sophisticated scouting and spy ring behind Confederate lines. Her military career reached its jaw-dropping pinnacle on the night of June 2, 1863, leading a fleet of 3 Union gunboats under the command of Colonel James Montgomery. Tubman guided Federal troops up the treacherous, heavily mined Combahee River. Because her spies had mapped out the locations of Confederate torpedoes and troops, the gunboats successfully bypassed the defenses and launched a surprise assault on several wealthy plantations. As the steam whistles blew, hundreds of enslaved people realized the long-awaited day of liberation had arrived. Tubman watched as men, women, and children flooded the river banks. That single historic night freed over 750 people, making Harriet Tubman the first woman in United States history to plan and command an armed assault. Following the Union victory and the formal abolition of slavery, Tubman retired to a small piece of land in Auburn, New York, which she had purchased from abolitionist Senator William H. Seward. Despite her monumental military service, the federal government denied her a veteran's pension for over 30 years, leaving her to spend much of her later life in financial hardship. True to her nature, she refused to stop fighting for human rights. She threw her remaining energy into the women's suffrage movement, working closely with leaders like Susan B. Anthony to secure voting rights for women. She opened the Harriet Tubman Home for the Aged on her property, caring for elderly Black Americans until she herself passed away from pneumonia on March 10, 1913, at approximately 91 years old. Today, she stands as an immortal icon of American resilience, a woman who started with absolutely nothing but her own courage, and went on to bend the moral arc of a nation toward justice. Thank you so much for joining us for this inspiring documentary. If you want to keep exploring the lives of the extraordinary heroes who fought against all odds to change our world, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and tap the notification bell. Now, let's open up the floor to you. Harriet Tubman famously said, "I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if they only knew they were slaves." What do you think she meant by this powerful statement, and how does it apply to modern-day struggles for freedom and mental empowerment? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. We look forward to a deeply meaningful discussion with you.